My name's John Horsey. I'm here in Ireland coarse fishing with top competition angler Baz Smith and also with local guide Dave Marson. Now, plenty of people say that the coarse fishing has got harder here in Ireland and that catching bream is very difficult. We're here to prove the exact opposite. There's plenty of quality fish to be caught here. There's bream, there's roach, there's hybrids, there's tench, and it's fantastic fishing. But the fishing has changed because the environment's changed. With the advent of things like zebra mussels, the water's now much clearer. So using loads and loads of white ground bait is a no-no. You've got to forget about white ground bait. You've got to use things like stewed wheat as particle and put with it maybe some sweet corn, some chopped worm, some dead maggots, casters, everything to get the fish feeding. But the one thing you don't want is a big carpet of white ground bait on the bottom. So it is really important to make sure you avoid that like the plague. We're here very early in the morning. Yesterday, Dave and Baz caught some quality fish. Now, they both used feeder tactics. Sometimes they were using a window feeder, other times it was a cage feeder. And it did make a difference from time to time to actually bring the fish back on the feed again. One of the best hook baits for bream is worm. Now, that's either chopped worm or small brandlings. Now, something you can do is add a secret little formula, which is pulvitamol, and that really does seem to enhance the bait. Whether it's the smell or the scent or the taste or the way that the worm moves after coating it with pulvitamol, we don't know. But one thing's for sure, it makes a massive difference at times. I'm mainly a fly angler, people know me for that, but I've been coarse fishing since the age of 6. Now, things have moved on in my coarse fishing life, if you like. And here I'm watching two real experts do what they do best, and then I'm going to have a go and see how I get on.
Keep it there, don't just put your veil arm over, shove it over. That's it. I usually shove it over. Have you done
Shove
that?
it over, you put it over by your hand?
Yeah, I usually do, yeah.
Right, okay.
Right, is it in bottom?
Yeah.
You don't need to do that, just pull it over your feeder, pull it over, right. Half a turn. Well, that should do it.
Right, we've just had a storm of rain. I managed to cast out, hit the clip properly, and had a lovely pull round take. Just try and get my bait out of there. And I've just landed my biggest ever bream to date, which is about £5, which for Irish bream size isn't enormous, but for me it's the biggest I've ever caught. So I'm more than happy with that. Look at that for a lovely fish. In clear waters like this, the bream are usually in, say, 10 to 20 foot of water. And quite often that's 40 plus yards from the shoreline. So you need to be able to cast 40, 50 yards, which isn't difficult with modern tackle. You need to be able to feed that far. Now, you can't catapult or throw particle on its own. Stewed wheat doesn't hold together very well. So you've got to add some dark ground bait. But you don't use masses of ground bait, but you use masses of particle. So that's the way you form balls, and then you catapult it into the areas that you're going to fish. But you do need to get that stuff out and as much as you possibly can. So last night we actually put a lot of feed in. Now, it was mainly particle, but it was held together by dark ground bait. So we'll be fishing feeder tactics again and trying to keep on putting a little bit of bait in to keep these fish on the feed. Now, we've stopped using keep nets most of the time, so hopefully that'll bring the fish back in as well. Because one of the things we don't want to do over here is put a lot of fish in a keep net, then release them at the end of the day, which then can spook the shoal and they move off. So that's another thing that people need to change their attitude towards. Right, the sun's come out now, so it could slow the sport down. Remember, we've got very, very clear water. Whoa, having said that, that was a great take. It pulled that tip right round. Isn't it funny, just as you say that things probably won't happen, the opposite happens. And that's the great thing about fishing. You never really know. And this is a bream, because this is head banging. Earlier in the year, Baz Smith was fishing on Loch Derg, which is a huge expanse of water. But these couple of days now we're fishing on a small loch in Ireland, and this place actually held the Irish bream record for a number of years. Being in Ireland means that we're really affected by the weather here. There's loads of fronts that move through, and on an hourly basis almost the weather can change. Now when you're fishing on huge areas of water like Loch Derg, these changes of fronts can bring the wind up, can make things really rough, and can make the fishing very, very difficult. And it can change so quickly. 1 second it can be great fishing, the next minute you've got waves all over wherever you're fishing and all coming up all over yourself, and it's difficult. But if you have a smaller loch like this, it's more controllable. Normally we don't use keep nets, but this is our last session, so we thought we'd put a few in there just for a photograph afterwards. But normally it's not a good idea to use keep nets, because when you release the bream they seem to go back into the shoal again and they spook the rest of the shoal, so it means that the next day you fish you don't catch anywhere near as many fish as you should. In Ireland we're fishing wild waters for wild fish. There's no stocked fish out here, they're all totally wild. There's plenty of food in here so they can feed whenever they want. Now I'm a professional fly fishing guide, and when I go coarse fishing it's great to have people like Baz Smith who can give me some advice. Now Baz is also a competition angler. I'm a competition angler, which means you need to catch fish in all conditions. So Baz has fished for years on the competition scene. Now it's great to listen to what he tells you, because there's always a reason behind what he's doing. And he changes very quickly, that's what I notice. But he's a really accurate caster. He fishes to his feed all the time. He never wastes any time. And he's absolutely aware of everything that's going on. So when the weather changes, Baz changes. He knows, he's thinking like a fish, and it's great to fish with somebody like him. One of the things I noticed about Baz is when he's casting to whatever his area is, he's very accurate at casting. He's clipped up the line so that it's going to be casting exactly the same distance every time. And as soon as that bait hits the bottom, it then releases the line, and he's straight on it then, gets his rod onto his rod rest, and at no time is he out of touch with his line, which means if a fish takes it just as soon as it's settled, he's on it straight away and he's got it. Whereas people like myself who are trying to improve their fishing, you find sometimes that there's quite a bit of delay between that bait hitting the bottom and your rod getting onto the rest. Secret of this is to fill the feeder, mark your spot, hit the spot, rod down, and then at all times keep the line tight, because you can see it still pulling on the rod tip. It's sinking, it's sinking, it's sinking, still sinking down, and now it's slack, bail arm over, and then move the rod onto the rest and just keep it slightly taut. And then it will relax a little bit, so just half a turn on the handle just to keep everything absolutely tight. So when you've actually tightened up and you've got your rod on the rest, you don't want a bow in your line, you want everything absolutely dead straight. And then as soon as that tip starts to move, you can hit it. It's fantastic fishing. The areas to fish for bream are drop-offs. So if you've got a steadily shelving bank and it goes say to 8-9 feet, then suddenly it drops away to 15 feet, that's where you want to be fishing. You don't really want to be casting 10 yards past that. You want to find that area by test casting with a bomb and just finding where that drop-off is, and then target that area. So that's the key. Find the drop-off, you'll find the fish. Now bream are low light feeders, so if you have cloudy days just like we've got today, it's perfect conditions for them. You need some wind, you need the cloud, a bit of rain doesn't really matter too much. When you have bright skies, flat calms, unfortunately bream don't like this. The waters now in Ireland are really clear, most of them, so they move out to deep water, they go out of range and they become uncatchable for a while. But when it's cloudy like this is what we want. So these are perfect conditions for trying to catch bream. If you've got conditions that aren't good for bream, there's plenty of roach, there's plenty of roach bream hybrids to catch here and to target, and they will feed during sunny weather. So there's different fish you can target at different times. One of the things to do now when you're in Ireland, keep an open mind and target the fish that are going to be feeding. There's one. No matter what species you're fishing for, I don't think this is a bream. If you get the technique right, and especially if you've got people who are giving you advice on how to do it, if you put it all together, you're going to get success. In summer like this in Ireland, there's so many fish. You never really know what's going to come to hand next. There we are. That's a skimmer, so we can swing that one in. Smaller bream. Oops, that one's gone back. Give it a little bit of factor X as well. That'll get him going. At last. Whenever I seem to get to the right spot, because I'm not so accurate as some of these guys who are really good at what they do. So when I do get it right, I catch. When I don't, it's the smaller fish that seem to plague us. I say plague us, it's bites anyway, so it's all good fun. But this is a bream, definitely. Come on, fella. There you go. Lovely.